Hello and welcome to the first edition of Metal Daze 84, where each episode I'll be taking a look at an issue of Kerrang, arguably the best heavy metal magazine ever. This time I'll be looking at the very first issue of Kerrang, which was published on the 6th of June 1981, so at the time of this recording it's just celebrated 40 years. Kerrang was initially a Sounds special. Sounds, published between 1970 and 1991, was one of the UK's three big weekly music papers, alongside the New Musical Express and the Melody Maker. Unlike NME and Melody Maker, Sounds featured a lot of heavy metal and hard rock coverage, and it was believed that there was enough interest in the new wave of British heavy metal movement to support a dedicated magazine. After the success of the first issue, the second was published 2 months later, in August, then monthly until February 1982, when it switched to fortnightly. So history lesson over for now. Let's have a look at what's in it. So of course the first thing that greets us is a stunning cover photograph of AC/DC's Angus Young on stage in all his sweaty head-shaking glory. At the time of printing, AC/DC was celebrating the success of 1980's Back in Black album, the first to feature ex-Geordie Brian Johnson, who replaced the late Bon Scott. The album topped the UK charts for 2 weeks. Inside, we're greeted by editor Jeff Barton, where he explains that the growing popularity of the metal genre helped with the decision for the title's launch. In the news section, the second Castle Donington Monsters of Rock Festival is scheduled for August 22nd, with AC/DC, Blue Oyster Cult and Blackfoot already confirmed, and Aerosmith, the Michael Schenker Group and Gamma rumoured as strongly possible, although sadly none of these 3 acts were finally on the bill. We have some decidedly non-PC shenanigans from UFO and Ozzy Osbourne, which probably wouldn't be viewed as amusing these days. Then hear that Def Leppard are in the studio recording their long-awaited second album. The delay was caused by the band waiting for producer Mutt Lange to finish work on his previous project, the latest from Foreigner. There's a light-hearted comparison between Meatloaf, Iron Maiden's Paul Di'Anno, and Duran Duran's Simon Le Bon, all modelling frilly white pirate-style shirts. Overleaf, there's an interview with Carlisle band Black Axe. Formed in 1977 under their original name of Leviathan, Black Axe released the Highway Rider single in 1980, which enjoyed strong sales and a good deal of press interest from Sounds magazine, before the band changed their name again in 1981 to Wolf. Then it's a 3-page interview with Biff Bifford and Paul Quinn of Saxon, wherein much is made of the band's apparent fondness for a nice cup of tea in preference to the usual rock and roll boozy excesses. But according to Quinn, this has been blown out of all proportion by the press. What a surprise. Saxon were working on what will be their 4th album, which has the working title of Never Surrender, but is finally released as Denim and Leather, right on the heels of 1980's Wheels of Steel and Strong Arm of the Law albums. According to Paul Quinn, the plan is to record the new album at ABBA's studios in Sweden, but it was eventually recorded at Aquarius Studios in Geneva, with some additional recording and mixing indeed performed at Benny and Bjorn's Polaris Studios in Stockholm. We then have a full-page colour pic of Vardis guitarist Steve Zodiac. Steady girls. Then we have 2 pages listing the Heavy 100, the all-time favourite heavy metal tracks as voted for by the readers of Sounds. At number 10, we have Overkill from Motorhead. At 9, 747, Strangers in the Night from Saxon. Number 8, Child in Time, Deep Purple. At 7, Paranoid from Black Sabbath. Number 6, 2112 from Rush. At number 5, Smoke on the Water, Deep Purple. Number 4, Freebird, Lynyrd Skynyrd. Number 3, Stairway to Heaven, Led Zeppelin. Number 2, Stargazer from Rainbow. And at number 1, Whole Lotta Rosie from AC/DC. The Armed and Ready feature looks at some up-and-coming bands. Sadly, not all of them met the same level of success. Bow Wow is a Japanese band formed in 1976 by guitarist Kyoji Yamamoto. In 1977 they opened for Aerosmith and Kiss on their Japanese tours. They played the Montreux Jazz Festival in Switzerland and the Reading Festival in England, both in 1982. They changed their name to Bow Wow in 1984. In 1987, Yamamoto recorded with the supergroup Phenomena, where he met former Whitesnake bassist Neil Murray, who then also joined Bow Wow. In 1990, Bow Wow officially disbanded as Itomi retired from music and Murray joined Black Sabbath. Geddes Axe is a heavy metal band from Sheffield, formed in 1979. Their name was derived from the 1920s Geddes Axe, which was the drive for public economy and retrenchment in UK government expenditure, recommended by Sir Eric Geddes. Diamond Head were formed in 1976 in Stourbridge in the West Midlands, and at the time of this feature had already recorded their Lightning to the Nations album, but had yet to sign with a major label. This would change later in the same year when they signed to MCA and released Borrowed Time, which reached number 24 in the UK album charts. The band received a big resurgence in popularity when Metallica covered several of their songs for single B-sides, such as Am I Evil and The Prince. Bristol's Jaguar were formed in 1979 by Jeff Cox, Gary Peppard and Chris Lovell, and released their first demo in 1980. The band later signed to Neat Records and released a Power Games album in June 1983. The group disbanded in 1984, but reformed in 1999. Raven are an English heavy metal band formed in Newcastle in 1974 by brothers John and Mark Gallagher. They were considered a big influence on thrash metal, and when Raven toured the US in 1983, they had Metallica as their support band, a big break for the young band as it was their first national tour. The band are still together despite a 4-year hiatus when guitarist Mark Gallagher was badly injured when a wall collapsed on him, from which thankfully he has recovered. Venom, also from Newcastle, gained a lot of press coverage in the early 80s due to their overtly satanic imagery and lyrical content. Like a lot of bands from the new wave of British heavy metal glory days, they were a huge influence on early thrash bands such as Metallica, Megadeth and Slayer. Bitches Sin from Barrow in Furness formed in 1980, disbanded in 1986. Like a lot of bands from this era, they've got back together due to the nostalgia and new interest in bands from the new wave of British heavy metal era. Wolverhampton's Split Beaver only released one album, 1982's When Hell Won't Have You. Manchester's Tora Tora never released an album, but put out 3 singles. Coventry's Chainsaw recorded a 5-track demo in 1980, and the Massacre EP in 1984. So that was the Armed and Ready feature. There's a nice full-page ad for Girl School's Hit and Run album, then some more colour pin-ups. Tats and Pats, Angry Anderson from Rose Tattoo, and an inset pic of Pat Benatar. Then Styx, where the art editor has committed the unforgivable sin of flipping the picture so that guitarists Tommy Shaw and James Young both now become left-handed. A full-page black and white picture of the Scorpions with some text commenting on their distasteful album sleeve artwork, from Virgin Killer to Animal Magnetism. A full-colour page dedicated to Michael Schenker, and likewise with Motorhead legend Lemmy. Then we have a very strange picture of Whitesnake's David Coverdale, sporting Joke's shop of vampire fangs and stick-on horns on his forehead. The colour centre spread features an almost naked Ted Nugent with an inset of a bloody Gene Simmons in his demonic glory. We have a black and white page pic of Led Zeppelin, then an article asking us to keep the faith by supporting our local heavy metal label. This article features on Wolverhampton's Heavy Metal Records label, with photos of Handsome Beasts and Buffalo. We have colour page pics for Pete Way and Paul Chapman of UFO, plus ZZ Top's Billy Gibbons. Following that, we have a couple of pages devoted to some silly snippets. Best of the bunch is a picture of a pre-White Lion Mike Tramp looking very Rocky Horror. More colour pics follow of Wild Horses with a pre-Dio Jimmy Bain, and ex-Thin Lizzy but pre-Motorhead Brian Robertson, Trust and Graham Bonnet. Then a short article on a possible glam revival, focusing on Silverwing and Venom. No, not that black metal one, another Venom. The Strictly for Connoisseurs pages have a deep dive for the true metal aficionado, featuring albums from Black Oak, Arkansas, Arthur Lee, Marcus, Golden Earring and the MC5. We then have one of Pete Frame's famous rock family trees, this time centred on Deep Purple, Gillan and Whitesnake. Pete Frame is a music journalist and historian who has produced several volumes of books detailing the links between various bands, which has also inspired 2 series of a TV show on the same theme. Another colour pin-up page, this time for Blackfoot. Then it's a page and a half dedicated to an appreciation of Ronnie Montrose, from his eponymous first album released in 1973 and featuring the mighty Sammy Hagar on vocals, to his later releases with Gamma. There's a Metal Mastermind quiz, a few pages of ads, and then we have the lovely and sadly missed Kelly Johnson of Girl School gracing the back cover. I hope you've enjoyed this look back at the metal heydays. Please click like, leave your comments below, and click subscribe to hear about the next show. Until then, stay safe and keep on rocking.